Welcome to the Cricket Badger IPL Daily Podcast 2021. The Indian Premier League 14th edition. It's great to have you with us. From the first match all the way to the final. Chennai Super Kings, Delhi Capitals, Kolkata Knight Riders, Mumbai Indians, Punjab Kings, Rajasthan Royals, Royal Challengers Bangalore, Sunrisers Hyderabad. May the best team win. Brought to you in association with Who Knows Wins. Put your money where your mates are, and play along with the Cricket Badger.
Hello everybody, we started as a 4 today, we might as well bring everybody in right from the start. Welcome along to the IPL, a daily podcast. I am the Cricket Badger, James Butler, and as you can see on the screen, we're joined by Neil, Claire and Deepak today to talk about CSK's win over Neil's SRH. SRH down and out and gone, and CSK basically with a Q next to them on the table because they have now officially qualified for the last 4. And the way they're playing, you wouldn't put it against them going all the way in this competition. We're going to talk about CSK's victory today. We're also going to talk about Ashwin's overthrow controversy because that carries on, rumbling on. And I know there's differences of opinion on the WhatsApp group. We have a Cricket Badger IPL WhatsApp group with everybody on it. And this morning we were talking about it. And I know I've got very different opinions to a few other people. So we'll see how Deepak and Claire and Neil respond to my suggestions that Ashwin was well out of order, basically, for going for that overthrow after it hit Rishabh Pant. Anyway, let's get back to today's game. And CSK, Neil, it was very much one-way traffic, that match. B, how on earth did SRH get it into the final over? And C, wasn't it good to see MSD hitting a 6 to finish it?
Well, I think B and C may be related. How does it get to a last over if MSD is there batting at the end? He does love a big shot to finish it off right at the death, doesn't he? To be honest, I'm not as disappointed as I have been in the past this season with SRH. I think we were 10, maybe 15 runs short of par. But
you've been that in pretty much every match this season, though, haven't you? Oh
no, we've been way over that in a load of games previously. It's bizarre. This Sharjah pitch has been really, really tough. I'm sure it's the same stadium where, our friend Sheldon, friend of the show, got twatted and people were scoring 200, 220 plus last season. But I think they've laid a new pitch.
Even last season, though, the scores came down. The more it was played on, the scores started to come down, didn't they? But they weren't as low as this. It was the highest scoring ground, wasn't it?
Oh, it was by far. I mean, it's a small ground. I understand that it's a new pitch that's been laid, I assume, with the World Cup in mind.
Take it back, Neil. Take it back to the shop.
People more knowledgeable than me say that it can sometimes take some time to bed in. There was a season where the Chinnaswamy was, I think it just had new drainage put in, and you're getting like 140, 150 scores in a poacher's stamp. And it's bizarre how even a really small ground can be so affected by the pitch. When Josh Hazlewood at 8'10" is getting it to bounce around people's ankles in the first couple of overs. Well, the tallest man out there by a long way, and finding little bounce in the first couple of overs of the game, then you do worry. Well, as an Indy fan, I don't worry. As an England fan or a West Indies fan, you may worry a bit about the World Cup if those are the types of pitches that you're going to be playing on. It's not Trent Bridge.
Claire, I wasn't on last time you were on, but Terry the Tarantula became the star of the podcast. I understand that you've not actually located him and kicked him out of the house yet, so he could actually appear again today.
He could appear today. I have to say, though, the other night when he did appear, he attacked rather than appeared, and came running towards me and then hid just under the corner of the sofa for the rest of the evening, but in my eye line. So eventually I had to go upstairs because, of course, spiders can't climb stairs. So I was safe. And then I haven't seen it since. But I've got my first line of defence, which An old wives' tale is about having freshly picked conkers in the room, and apparently they repel spiders. Now I've googled it; it's not true, according to Google. But then, hey, who knows? But it's certainly making me feel a little better. And so far, there is no sign of the intruder.
Well, you could throw the conkers at
But
him,
if I
couldn't you?
scream and run,
Well, I
no,
wanted
no,
you
no,
to actually
no,
mic.
no.
I actually wanted you. I wanted you to mic Terry up today, so you could actually put him alongside you, and we could have a Spider fan.
Well, he's
badger.
big enough to have a set of these earphones in. Let me tell you. I mean, the thing was the size of my hand.
Getting back to the cricket, the SRH. I know I've got quite a soft spot for SRH, and I think you have as well, because we've had a few Yorkies playing for SRH in the past, and I've always quite liked the way they play. I like Rashid Khan, I like Kane Williamson, etc. But they've not really gelled at all this season. We've seen SRH in the past. They've often left it late and come through to make the playoffs, and they've won it in the past, but it's never really looked like happening this time, Claire, has it?
It hasn't. And even the win the other night was like kind of, it didn't really look like it was going to happen. I mean, yeah, there's some great players in the team. I'm a massive fan of Kane Williamson. I just love his whole approach to the game. And Jason Holder, who was great tonight. Nice to see him doing well. So there's a lot of good components, but for some reason it's just not coming through for him, which is it's tough to see. But then I think, like I mentioned earlier, it is nice to see MS, like doing his thing and not just sort of flopping out or being a house bean. So yeah, I guess when it's neither of my big teams, it's you can just appreciate performances and some really good little. I thought the bowling was great. Nice to see Sid Cole having giving it a real go when
he nearly did it, didn't he? He nearly did it. He nearly pulled it out the fire, but not quite today for him. Deepak, good to have you back on the podcast. CSK. Are we seeing the winners of IPL 2021 before our very eyes? They seem to be, they're top of the table. They've got Q next to them having qualified. You wouldn't put it past them finishing top of the table the way they're playing. Even when they're not playing that well, they seem to still be winning, which isn't a bad knack to have. Are they going to win the thing?
Well, there are very high chances. The only team that I see that is capable of stopping them right now is Delhi Capitals. That's because the kind of pace they have in Rabada, Noki, and Avesh. And if you see the CSK middle order, they have a weakness against raw pace. So that's one team which can really trouble CSK. And of course, if Mumbai come along to the playoffs, they are always a tough opponent.
And the way it's set up, obviously,
it can be, yeah.
The way it's set up, Deeps, is that obviously the table only plays a certain amount of a part in this, isn't it? The top four go through, but then after that we start again effectively. So anybody that actually gets into that top four can win the thing. And the form in the group stage obviously plays a part. You get momentum, you get a bit of confidence, but it doesn't actually count for anything when you get to the playoff situation.
To some extent, it does. Momentum plays a big part, but there's a thing called peaking at the right time, and more often than not, we have seen RCB peaking at the start of the tournament and then going downhill, and exact opposite for Mumbai Indians. So it's about who peaks at the right time. Like in 2016, we saw SRH come out of nowhere, and they were probably placed third or fourth and just about qualified, and they are still the only team who played a eliminator and then went on to win the tournament. So anything can happen once they reach the playoffs. It's about picking at the right time.
Neil, looking at the Sunrisers card today, Vitamin Sahar by far the highest scorer for the Sunrisers today. Nobody else got past 18. Jason Roy, though, 2 off 7 for him. He never got going at all today. And these are the kind of tracks that he's going to be expected to open for England in the T20 World Cup. It doesn't bode that well, does it?
These are also the kind of tracks that Jason Roy historically has really struggled on. He's one of those guys that, for us based in the UK, we watch cricket on Sky a lot, and commentators are always asking, Why is he not getting picked up in the IPL? Why is he not getting picked up in the IPL? Because this is what Jason Roy does. If you give him a good track, a flat track, especially in places like Australia, he's absolutely brutal. When it gets a little bit dirty or it spins a bit, then he's very hit or miss. And that's what it's been like in the IPL throughout his career. At Delhi, he scored a beautiful century at the Wankhede, but did very little else. He was in and out of the squad and down at number 6 at Gujarat Lions. And I thought he played really well in the last match. But yeah, I mean, if he doesn't get off to a flyer, then you do worry a little bit. And for England, that will be something that Owen Morgan looks at. I don't think his place in the squad is under consideration. But you got Johnny Bairstow, who could very easily slot in at the top, and there's a wealth of riches in the middle order that can be moved around. So he'll definitely be hoping for the tracks to flatten out to get some more scores, to get himself into some form on these kind of tracks as well, so that when it comes to the World Cup, he's ready to go. But historically, this isn't where he does well.
Has Owen Morgan got any? He can't exactly take Jason Roy into a corner and say, "You're out of form, you're not playing," because Jason Roy could just turn around and say, "Well, when was the last time you scored any runs, Owen Morgan?" But we'll probably talk about that another day on the podcast.
He did that at the Champions Trophy, though, didn't he? Was it Jason Roy who dropped out when Johnny Bairstow came in and started his tremendous run of white ball form back in 2017?
Yeah.
You can't keep failing indefinitely.
Claire, the CSK opening partnerships in T20 make a massive difference, don't they? If you can get a pair that walk in at the top of the order and consistently put on 50 or more in the power plays, it gives you an incredible foundation. You got Ruturaj Gaikwad, who got 45 today, Faf du Plessis, who's right at the top end of the race for the orange cap this season. You kind of forget that he scored loads of runs in the first half of this tournament when it was in India. But they are forming a really formidable partnership, and that's going to take CSK. It is taking CSK a long way in this tournament.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I was just thinking, like in the last season, was the opening partnership so different when CSK, there's a makeup of the team so completely different. CSK just didn't, they won, was it 3 or 4 or 5 matches the whole of the tournament. And yet this time the makeup's not that much different, but they are just firing.
Gaikwad's a different one, isn't
he? I guess he's coming off.
They had Shane Watson kind of loitering around the top order last time.
I guess limping out, yeah. And it wasn't a settled top order, and I guess that's where they've found Gaikwad and he's come through, and they've just found this opening partnership, which is setting the platform for their winning form, I guess. So that's things are falling into place for him nicely.
Deepak, Suresh Raina, just 2 runs today for him. Kind of the way he's playing at the moment, you're banging a short ball at his ribs, and then you bowl a full ball next up, and he's out.
Yeah. We got to consider that he hasn't been playing much cricket, unlike the rest of the squad, and he has been given a role that you just go and smash it, or he is generally coming into the situations where there is not very much pressure on him, except for that Mumbai game. So not much of a concern if you ask me, but if the top 2 fail in some games, then Raina has to step up against the spinners.
Rashid Khan's interesting as well, Deepak, isn't he? Because he's such a good bowler that they just seem to put a foot on him and play him out and just concentrate on attacking the others. I mean, Rashid Khan, if he was just on skill level, he would always be purple cap winner or very close to it. But yeah, one wicket today for him. He tends to get 1s and 2s now rather than 3s and 4s, which he did when he first burst onto the scene, because people are very careful against Rashid Khan these days, aren't they?
Much to do with the overall attack SRH have. If Rashid had someone of a more wicket-taking bowler like say Shami or Rabada or Bumrah, then teams would have looked to score of Rashid as well. Now they don't. This you see an SRH lineup. You see which bowler to play out, which bowler to attack. There's only one man, that's Rashid Khan. You play him out, you got the game in your hands. And to add to it, Ruturaj, I mean, did you see that lofted straight drive, which went on to six in the second ball he faced of Rashid Khan? That
There's
was
not many people, Deepak, that have a go at Rashid Khan, is there?
yeah,
Because they
exactly.
do tend to kind of try and play him out. But Gaikwad went for him, didn't he?
Yeah. So if you look at this season, the overall plan has been Faf attacking the Pacers and Rutraj going after the spin. So if you look closely, Moin, Faf, and Rayudu have kind of shielded Faf from top class spin, and Faf has done the same with pace bowlers. So going along quite well for them.
How is Faf du Plessis, who is, as I say, right towards the top end of the batting stakes in this IPL, on different pitches as well, and doing it in the UAE now? Neil, how is he not in the South African team for the World Cup?
Well, was it Faf, Chris Morris, Imran Tahir, who didn't even get a courtesy phone call from Mark Boucher. George Linder as well didn't make it in.
Yeah.
It's
Well, didn't Imran Tahir find out on Twitter that he hadn't made the squad, or so? It was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, he didn't get he didn't have a word from the selectors. It's mind-boggling, really, because this South African team could be contenders if they got their act together, but somehow they managed to find a way to trip themselves up. It's impressive that they managed to do it before the tournament this time instead of waiting for the knockouts.
Well, if that's the warm up, though, imagine what the controversy is going to be actually in the tournament. If they could, but I mean, it's just so disrespectful for a player like Imran Tahir that always gives his all, to find out on social media or whatever that he's not part of that squad. That makes no sense at all. It's really disrespectful for somebody that's given a lot to that team. Looking at the table, then, as we've all the teams have played 11 matches now. CSK sit top of it. They're through to the final four. They're on 18 points. You've got Delhi Capitals that mathematically need another win, but 16 points might be enough for them. So I think we can safely assume that CSK and DC are going to be in the final four. RCB probably need one more win. KKR, they take on Clare's Punjab Kings tomorrow. We'll talk about that in just a second. Mumbai Indians are level with KKR on 10 points. Punjab Kings and Rajasthan Royals are on 8 points. And Neil, just put fingers in your ears. Sunrisers Hyderabad back in last place on 4 points, and certainly are going to be going home after the group stage is finished. Let's move on, Claire, to tomorrow. Punjab Kings taking on Kolkata Knight Riders. Now, if Kolkata win this, they go to 12 points and they'll be 4 points ahead of Punjab Kings with 2 matches to play. This is a real 4-pointer, this, isn't it? Because if Punjab Kings win it, they go level with KKR, and then it is all to play for on the final 2 matches. This is a huge game.
Yeah, it's a massive game. And I mean, don't we all want to keep the competition alive? I guess there's going to be a lot of people rooting for Punjab tomorrow. Just me. But yeah, a massive game. I'm already wondering whether I'm going to even be able to better watch it. I don't know what's more terrifying, the thought of the spider or trying to watch such another tense game. It's really exciting. It'd be interesting to see which they put out, who's going to get a game. Be all and shuffle, throw them up in the air.
The way the Punjab Kings play, Claire, you're safer if they've had a really bad start to the match, aren't you? Because if they're actually dominant after about 30 overs, they tend to lose those ones.
Well, I mean, the ones that you think they're going to win, they lose. The ones that you think they're going to lose, they win. They have it in the bag. They throw it away. I just don't know. I mean, it's who knows? I mean, I think bowling is fairly settled. It's just getting that batting order right. And I mean, I guess wondering if Mayank's neck is recovered, and where are they going to put Mark? Are they going to keep getting? Kind of. it's hard to judge and hard which team is actually going to make it out onto the pitch. So, it'd be interesting to see that tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing who gets the game. And, it'd be nice to see, like the likes of Poran maybe pulling it off.
You're going to, at the end of this podcast, do your usual thing, and you're going to give your troops a rallying cry and inspire them ahead of that match against the Delhi Capitals, Kolkata Knight Riders tomorrow.
Indeed.
But let's change tack and go to R Ashwin and the overthrow controversy that happened in the last game that he played. The ball basically hitting Rishabh Pant, cannoning off him, and then they completed another run, and which is not against the rules. That's the first thing to say. It's not against the rules, but it's against the spirit of the game. I mean, that very loose spirit of the game thing, where basically it's kind of just considered to be the norm that if it hits a player and bounces off them at a different angle, you don't run for it. I've seen a lot of comment today from people suggesting, well, how can Owen Morgan be such a hypocrite? Because he's complaining about that, but he was happy to take the World Cup after the ball cannoned off Ben Stokes and went to the boundary. I think that's a completely different argument, and we'll park that straight away before anybody brings it up, because it came off Ben Stokes' bat. He stood there and said, I don't want these runs. I don't want to run for this. He never even made a move to run for it. And because it went over the boundary edge, he couldn't actually then say, we're not having those runs, because they were given. So that's a totally different argument. But Deepak, let's start with you, because I've not really heard your views on this yet. Is R Ashwin right? Because Ashwin basically has said that he didn't see the ball hit Pant and then was quite happy to trot back through it. But then he did add that if he had seen it hit Pant, he would have been quite happy to trot through for another run anyway. Is that in the spirit of the game, Deepak? What is the spirit of the game, Deepak?
I think what's in the rules should be considered as the spirit of the game, and nothing beyond the rules should be considered against the spirit of the game. And I think the comparison about the World Cup final is quite fair. Yes, Ben Stokes didn't run, but the captain could have easily said that we don't want those 4 runs, and the ball could have been called a dead ball or anything.
Is that actually possible? Because I don't know if it is or not. The umpires have awarded the boundary.
It's possible actually. If you can withdraw appeal against a run out or something like Krunal Pandya did yesterday, you can obviously do that with a boundary. So for me that's a fair argument.
Isn't it right though, Neil, that in sport, I mean, particularly cricket, which is incredibly officious, if you read the rule book of cricket, it lasts a long time and it's not the most exciting read, so I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless you want to get to sleep early tonight. But there are so many rules prescribed. I mean, even in the World Cup final, we'll go back to that again, but they had to basically get the rule book out there and work out what was happening, because the umpires don't know every single rule in the book.
They didn't, because they got it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But in a world where there is so many rules written down, there still needs to be a little bit of scope for people to just do the right thing, doesn't there?
I think the issue that I have is not so much with the laws. It's with a culture where a person's individual morality is superseding the laws and is done so on a very ad hoc basis. What is morally correct for Owen Morgan, and I'll add Tim Southey in there as well, may not be shared by many other people around the world.
When was the last time, though, you saw somebody get hit by the ball and then take the run? I've
seen several times where a bowler has picked up the ball in his follow through.
That's a different thing. Don't go down that route, because that's a different thing entirely. We're talking about when they're running. When was the last time you saw a batsman get hit by the ball, it diverts off, and them taking the extra run? Usually they say, no, it's hit me, I'm staying.
Well, actually, my example was very similar. Where the ball is thrown, generally is as intimidation. No, generally is intimidation. Bowlers throw the ball back at a batter and give him a stare. I have seen it several times where it deflects off somewhere towards square leg, and they do take a run off that.
But
and
as I
then
said, that is a totally different example to
I don't
what we're
think
talking
so,
about.
because
It is.
it's an it's a non-deliberate deflection off the batter, and a run is then taken. It's because of a bad throw, the same way that people run on overthrows when the ball's gone about 10 yards away from the wicketkeeper. I think, as I said, there's a cultural difference between some people believing one way of playing and some people
I don't
believing
think I know what you're saying there,
another.
because the suggestion is that because cricket is so old, it has been England and Australia that have kind of created all of the rules, and that India is the kind of poor relation to some degree for a long time in that relationship, have been kind of not able to create the rules, and they've got a different culture, so they therefore maybe see it a different way. I don't think in this instance that is even relevant, because I think this is just agreed across the board. I've seen Indians get hit by the ball and not take the extra run because it's hit me, I've got in the way, therefore I'm not taking the extra run. It's just, to me, Claire, around the world, it's deemed to be unacceptable to do that. Claire's gone all quiet. Deepak, it's, to me, I think in the spirit of this kind of very loose term of the spirit of the game, to me, it's just about good manners.
You're asking me. Sorry, it's so well.
Now she's back. Now there seems to you're in the same county as me. We're in the same country, and yet there seems to be a 20-second delay between me and you today.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some sort of delay. I was wondering whether I should go onto my phone, as the iPad seems to be doing this. But I guess my thought on it is that, so I haven't seen the incident.
Claire,
I've just read
Claire,
it.
Claire, Claire, Claire,
So
Claire,
they're going for this. Did the second run after it hit him?
Claire. Go on your phone, because your audio is bad on your iPad as well. Deepak, the spirit of cricket, this loose term that we have, to me, it's about good manners. It's like when I introduce this podcast, I don't say, Deepak, you scumbag, I'm really not happy that you're on this podcast. I welcome you, because that is kind of the acceptable thing to do. I am actually very happy you're on it, but it's kind of like you don't do things. Certain things are accepted in life, and certain things aren't. Things like murdering somebody is written down in statute. It's written down in law. You're not supposed to do that. It's frowned upon. But more than frowned upon. But the thing with sport, it's like in snooker. You see in snooker, somebody's reaching across the balls. He brushes it with his cuff. Nobody else sees it, but the snooker player, generally speaking, stands up and says, I've touched the balls. It's a foul. You see it in other sports as well. You just, it's not written in the rules, but you do it. I think this is an occasion where it's just acceptable. But on that basis, to avoid this kind of discussion, shouldn't we just say, if the ball hits one of the batsmen whilst they're running, it's a dead ball immediately?
Well, it's again depending on the individual. I don't see Morgan being wrong here, because that's what he believes, and that's how he plays his game. And I don't see Ashwin being wrong here as well, because he goes by the rules, as simple as that. And in cricket, like you mentioned, there are a lot of complicated things, complicated rules. If something is morally wrong, then make it a rule, as simple as that. I mean,
don't you think, Deepak, Ashwin quite likes this kind of stuff? I get the impression that he actually quite revels in the fact that he can cause a bit of a stir every now and again.
Yeah, he likes taking up a fight every now and then. He likes taking up challenges, especially when people start criticizing him. I bet he didn't actually see that the ball hit Pant, and the statement that if I had seen, I would have run. It came because of that controversy only. I don't think he would have done actually that.
Sehwag's comments on Twitter as well were incendiary. They were almost irresponsible because he's almost like he's trying to start a fight or continue a fight that he has nothing to do with, which is a completely different thing. Claire's back with us, and Terry's not with her yet either. So good to have you back, Claire. Where do you stand on this overthrow malarkey? Are you quite happy to see Ashwin say that he would run because it's part of the rules, or do you think there should be some kind of like silent code that is kind of like just outside of the rule book where people just do the right thing every now and again?
Well, there is a bit of a silent code where people do the right thing sometimes, like the example about, withdrawing appeals and stuff. And what I was trying to say earlier is I haven't actually seen footage of the incident, but I all sorts of questions pop up in my mind, like if the ball had hit Pan and then they went for the second run and somebody picked up the ball and run one of them out, would that have been out then? Or would that have been, it was a dead ball because it hit a player, so he's not out? And there's all sorts of sort of different things that can happen, and like the overthrow thing. And I guess there's two sort of camps, isn't there? The ones that would mancad and take a second run, and the ones that would do neither of those. So however, mancadding, of course, in the rules, so that's slightly different. But I don't know.
That's wrong as well.
Oh, it's not. That's the thing, isn't it? So, but that is an actual.
It's not wrong at all.
Well, no, it's right, isn't it? So, it's all those debates, which I guess are like those little things that makes cricket such a for me a sport, a side of all of the sports, and yeah. So,
there was a comment on our WhatsApp group earlier, Claire, where somebody said, I think it was Anand said, look at other sports, that they play by the rules, and if it's in the rules, you do it. If it's out the rules, you don't do it, and it's that black and white. But I don't think cricket shouldn't, just because other sports maybe get things wrong. Cricket shouldn't lower itself to that, should it?
Well, but is it? We're not necessarily lowering. It's like when they're in a Yorkshire match this summer. One of the guys, did he get an injury or something, or a cramp? And Yorkshire could have run him out, and they didn't run him out. There's this big, that's not in the spirit of the game. They could have run him out, but that was their choice. And what they said was, the guy's down. I'm not going to do that. But again, they came in for a lot of criticism for that. So,
but they did the right thing, Claire, and that's the spirit of the game. That's where the spirit of the game comes from, Neil, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but
doing the right thing.
But
it should be.
Yeah. Would it have changed anything for you though if the guy going for the run had have got run out? Would you think?
Well, if he takes on the run and it's in the rules, he gets run out, doesn't he?
Well, but if it had been a dead ball because it hit the guy and he shouldn't have took the run, then
but technically it's not. Technically, it's not a dead ball.
So it's not a dead ball.
And if you are nasty and cheaty enough to actually take the run, then you deserve to get run out. They should have run him out. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. We could do a 24-hour podcast on this because there are so many nuances. And Claire's mentioned mancad, and I'm desperate to try and talk about mancads, but that takes us another 10 minutes through this podcast.
That's why I brought it up.
Just one thing on the spirit. Just one thing on the spirit. When people were talking about Nathan Lehman sending those coded signals to Owen Morgan recently, Nathan Lehman came out and said the spirit of cricket is a very nebulous thing. It's very vague and can't really be policed when it comes to this. I think the spirit of cricket seems to be taken as a way that people should be acting only when it actually helps certain people, by people like Owen Morgan.
You see, at least I'm consistent there, because I don't think he should be doing that either.
No, absolutely. I think the problem with the spirit is it means different things to different people, and because it's not an agreed way of acting universally, that's where you end up with things like this.
So stick it in the rule book. If it hits a runner, it's a dead ball.
Leave it to the umpires. Umpires can choose if it's a dead ball, if it's deflected off something. What is interesting on the Mancadding debate is how much people.
Neil.
No.
This is going to be the second time on this podcast.
Oh no!
Please don't take us down this route.
No.
Meanwhile, James, there's some
people.
interesting news coming from Kings, coming from Punjab Kings. Chris Gayle has left the bio bubble due to bubble fatigue. So,
Oh, Chris
Oh,
Gale's
wow.
gone, Claire.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, it saved them dropping him.
Well, at least that news has stopped Neil bringing up Mancads, which
I was
is
going to talk about Maeve Duma for Cameroon. Everyone loved her doing her 4 Mancads in 2 overs.
I didn't. It's a disgrace. And I'll tell you what's worse. I'm going to say one thing on Mancads, and I can do it because we're on video. But when somebody goes into the bowling action and they get to there, and then they suddenly double back and go, got you. I hate that. That is that's skullduggery. That is just wrong.
I love it.
Yeah. The only thing that's wrong with it is, particularly in England, we're all taught to back up, but we are not taught that it comes with the risk of getting run out. If people understood that there was that risk of getting run out when they were backing up, then it'd be an acceptable risk to minimising your chance of getting run out at the strike's end.
I'm going to say something really frivolous now, but I was doing a football commentary the other day, and we were discussing whether people hate diving in football because that is blatant cheating. And they should have a sniper on the roof of the stand, and if somebody's seen to be diving, you stun him for 20 minutes with a stun gun like you would do a lion in the zoo. And if you put a kind of an electric force field about 2 foot outside the popping crease at the non-striker's end, and the player that basically clicks off as soon as the ball leaves the bowler's hand. So you basically risk electric shock if you go too far out of your crease. That's one way around it. We need to find something that actually stops mancadding, and we shouldn't call it mancadding either, because it's disrespectful to Vinod. But anyway, let's move on and let's move back into tomorrow's match. In fact, no, one last thing. Neil, Ashwin right or wrong?
Ashwin right.
Deepak, Ashwin right or wrong?
Ashwin right.
Claire, Ashwin right or wrong?
From what I know, Ashwin right.
James, Ashwin right or wrong? I carry 3 votes as the host. He is wrong. So it's still to be decided.
It's a tie.
Tomorrow's match, we see the Punjab Kings do or die for the Punjab Kings against the Kolkata Knight Riders. If Kolkata win that, then they've kind of put sort of 2 toes or something into the playoffs. Mumbai Indians will be hot on their heels. Very quickly, Neil, who wins that match tomorrow?
Come on, Neil.
No, on form and without Chris Gayle, KKR, they're playing too well at the moment. They're on a late run.
Deepak, what do you see it as?
I see KKR winning.
Claire, you're outside the dressing room tomorrow, and your Punjab Kings, they're in there. They're knowing it's last chance saloon. They know it's the tense, the nervous. Inspire them. You've got half a minute to inspire them. And you've muted yourself. You've muted yourself and turned off your camera just at the wrong time. What are you doing?
Just rung me. Am I back on? Right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
it.
Right. Okay. So yeah, big moment, big speech. So Chris Gayle out. I mean, first of all, Chris, if you're listening, you know, I respect your decision to leave the bio bubble. So over to the team selection, get this right. But we've come close in every single match, and on the law of averages, how our season's gone, we are due a win. So, and fighting stay into the competition. Everybody, hopefully by now, you know what your roles are and what you've got to do and what you can do on your best day. So tomorrow is do or die. And remember, a Punjab king lays down his life but never gives up. Tomorrow, we shall either win or die in the attempt. And that is from the do or die speech by Mr. Gandhi. So there you go. What more inspiration do you need as a Punjab king? Go for it.
And Al Cumbly, if you're watching and you want that just clipping out and sending to you, then I'm more than happy to do that. Because Claire is desperate for you to win tomorrow. I'm sure you are as
Come
well,
on,
Anil.
Punjab!
And that could be the difference. Play that in the dressing room 5 minutes before you go out, and that could be the difference between the Punjab Kings loitering on 8 points or being in the thick of it on 10 points after that game tomorrow. CSK, congratulations to you and to all of your fans watching. CSK are definitely qualified for the playoffs. But can Punjab Kings stay in the race, or can Kolkata Knight Riders? They're not going to technically eliminate them. Going to make it very, very difficult for them if they beat them tomorrow. Neil, Deepak, and Claire, you're completely wrong on the R Ashwin thing, but thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching and listening. In fact, just one second. We have a comment. Rito saying, where's Terry? He's not. Terry, you've let us down today. Terry the tarantula, you have let us down today. I was looking forward to an appearance from you today, and you have let us down. But next time Claire is on, make sure, Terry, you're tuned in. Get your earphones on, get your mic ready. You can come on the podcast as well. We will be back tomorrow, everybody, to talk about more IPL. We'll see you then.